right, everybody. I'm so excited that today we get to speak with Shawndrika Cook, who is a licensed therapist, and she's going to be meeting with us today, just talking about some of the just navigating this change of the world we're living in right now, the times and the culture. You spend a lot of time, you said, with kids who are, elementary through high school, those who are transitioning off to college. So just introduce yourself and just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hey, and thank you, Brandon, for that awesome introduction. I am Shawndrika Cook, and I am a licensed professional therapist. I've been a therapist about 8 years. I have my own private practice, and I currently see students who are in elementary to high school that transitioning stage into college, and also some college students. So I'm so excited for this opportunity doing be in a place in a position to really talk about mental health.
Yeah, so I love some of the perspective that you brought to the process of what kids are thinking about, what they're struggling with, and what they're going through. And one of the things that you mentioned was not only the transition, which I want you to talk about, in some of the coping skills of now being at home all the time, in the same environment with their parents all the time, or a primary caretaker. There's some separation from their friends and their activities, the things that they usually do, but also I guess in connection to that would be learning how to now navigate the education and all of that. So they're coping in different environments in a different way of life, but they're also having to sort of learn to educate themselves in a different way as well, because school has continued online. So what are you seeing in your conversations with a lot of students, and what are some things that you feel like would be a benefit maybe to a child listening, a teenager, even a parent who's trying to help their child in this season?
So, what I'm listening and hearing and seeing is the struggle of not understanding. A lot of times they have that one-on-one time with teachers. They don't have a routine anymore. It's like, okay, I know I have to get this done. So the time management skills are gone. The ability to have that schedule, their regimen is gone. And so a lot is going on as far as the students, because they don't know how to navigate without those hints, that bail system, or the teacher saying let's go if they're a little bit younger. And so they don't know. It's hard for them to learn how to time manage, as well as that communication, like you said, those relationships. A lot of students are now finding out, and parents are finding out, how anxiety is in their student. And so now that anxiety level that was either low to moderate is now high and hyphenated. And so now we're looking at students who are scared to go outside because COVID is outside. I've heard so many younger kids saying, I'm not going outside, Miss Shawndrika, because COVID gonna get me, Coco gonna get me, Corona gonna get me. It's a coronavirus. I even heard my goddaughter say this, and it was amazing that we have not taught them that, how the virus is spread. But even in that, they still feel like they say stay inside. So a lot of kids are afraid to go outside ever again. And so now parents are having to kind of transition them slowly, maybe doing 5 minutes outside with them together, and then transition them to where they can play outside by themselves. And so that's one way that we're really dealing with the coping skills in the mentality of our younger kids here during this season.
So you mentioned, in one thing you said that I thought was interesting, is that those who are already dealing with maybe some anxiety, and I think we see that, I don't know, I feel like we see that a lot more. Is that a lot
Mm-hmm.
common, that our children and our kids are facing more anxiety? We see that more with our young people. And so when it's heightened because of something like this, and it escalates, and maybe it's a new level for a family, what
Mm-hmm.
are some coping skills that you are recommending to kind of decrease those levels as they're increasing because of the anxiety?
So,
I think you mentioned like maybe some exercise, getting the kids outside slowly,
mm-hmm,
taking them through the process of
mm-hmm,
overcoming some fear. What are some of
mm-hmm.
the coping things that you think are really important for parents to do to help de-escalate the anxiety?
I mean, just the education. I think the thing that's hiding the anxiety is what we see on TV. So decreasing TV time, screen time, of course, creating more family moments, those movie moments, those family game nights, if possible, creating time management, allowing them to take a nap, giving them those silent moments, actually to regroup and rethink. A lot of times studies have shown, and there's so many studies out there that show that if a child in between sessions take a nap, they're easy to retain the information. And so taking time out to just having quiet moments where they're not consumed or put in place of all these stimulants, that creates anxiety as well, because you got to realize they're sitting at a screen. They have to talk to their teacher via screen. They're seeing their classmates via screen. And a lot of times they're not having that stimulation that they usually have, which is they touch, those conversations, the lunchroom area, the gym, those different environments. And so what I suggest is that, create time management, create a schedule, discuss a schedule, incorporating more family time in there, giving those silent moments, allowing them to have those naps. I know it's crazy, but it's definitely needed. And it helps them retain and not be as agitated as they would if you just had them going, going,
Sure. I love that. I mean, I think I may
going.
take that as a practice and take a nap after our call today. I don't know. I think we could all do that.
Yes.
Those are really great things that I think are very practical. I think
Hmm.
sometimes we think it's really hard to navigate this and try to help a young person or even ourselves through this, but those are some really just practical things that we can do to
Hmm.
help de-escalate some of that stress. What would you say for a parent? Because as our kids' stress has escalated, so has that of our parents in trying to help their children learn, continue to be educated while managing their mental health, their physical, their emotional health. Are there a few little tips that you could say that will help a parent help a child continue to learn and grow in this season?
Yes, most definitely. I have a cousin who has 6 kids.
Wow.
And so they all range from pre-K up into middle school. And so what I told her to do is do a bell system. Most of those kids are so stimulated by a bell system. The pre-Ks may not be, but her elementary up into her middle school kids are stimulated by bell systems. Having that family meeting, saying, hey, when you hear this bell, this is what this means. When you hear this bell, this is what this means. Also, giving it instead of that 45-minute increments, we have to realize that when kids are at school, even though they're there for 8 hours, there is a time where they are broken up. There's not straight 8 hours of education. There's some breaking in there. And so now they're at home, which is their environment. We have to kind of conduce that schedule to the environment that they're in. So creating a schedule, discussing that schedule, creating a bell system, even allowing the child to kind of manipulate the bell system. And what I mean by that is they're setting the timer, or they're looking at they're the ones who's setting the phone or whatever bell system that you decide to get. I just realized that Echo, if you have an Alexa, you can actually do announcements through Alexas. If you have many Echo Dots in the house, you can actually make an announcement. So that can be something fun. It's something familiar to them as far as the school system.
That's great. I love that. I like that. That was a good point. Students are changing environment even in the school setting,
Hmm.
a social aspect. So taking a break of scenery and changing it, knowing that they get a reset every how many minutes that you decide that would be. I think that's great. What about seniors who are transitioning into a college setting, or even college who are transitioning into the workforce? I mean, that's a big transition. I think even so, more for those entering the workforce. What would you say to them who are really making that big leap, trying to find a job in this?
Right. Yes, yes. It's such craziness. So for my seniors, my greatest thing that I want them to take away, a coping skill they need to understand, is really looking at this from an aspect of preparation. Getting them a list of what they need to make whatever environment they're about to put themselves in conducive to they're not even leaving home, that's an awesome thing. If they're staying home and going home and going to school in their hometown, so that's totally awesome. But for those who are kind of creating things that they feel like could make this feel like home, having those conversations about those anxious moments, because we don't know how colleges will be doing move-in dates into dormitories. So getting those anxieties and fears out, creating lists of things that they feel like they're fear. Will I be on time? Will I be familiar with the campus? So maybe I hope that the colleges and what I've talking to with colleagues, that will give them time to at least come and just kind of explore in groups, using the CDC social distancing practices. And so that's good for them. As far as the college students who are leaving, I think this is a perfect time for them to really create a network. Search out for networks, so LinkedIn's, even Facebook network, Facebook groups specializing in where they want to go, creating mentorships. This is the best time. There are a lot of people I know that are saying, hey, I'll be a mentor, because they don't have that one-on-one, or they miss that chance to be in internship, right? Or they were in the middle of the internship, but it was cut before they graduated. So those things. So creating a network, reaching out to people. This is the best time for you to really work on your communication skills and really network. If you see somebody who's doing something you want to do, reach out to them. Continue to reach out to them. Continue to connect with people. This is the best time for networking to take place via online.
Sure. And it's almost like there's maybe a little extra time in this
Mm-hmm.
that could be a benefit since things have slowed down. I mean, our world has slowed down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to restructure. We've had to adapt to things like, this technology conversation. So I think that's an asset that I could see that would be beneficial to them. So to take some of this advice that you've given and then use this extra time to really prepare and to plan moving in. So that's great information for them because that's a big transition stage of their life.
Yes, most definitely.
And then in the middle of all that, I think those who may be taking much of this stress is the parents who are
Yes.
trying to guide these little ones. I have a soon to be 4-year-old, and it's 24/7. You're trying to work and be productive, and yet, he doesn't understand why, you can't play all the time. And then it
Right.
only, I know, gets more complicated from there through, preteen, teenage years, and then helping a young adult transition in life. So for parents, what are you telling the parents? How to take care of themselves, a little self-care, and to make sure.
Yes. So one thing is that time management. I think as parents, we don't have time management. I'm not a parent, but talking to all the parents, I realized I'm like, okay, what do you do with your time? Well, I have this, this, and this. Okay, so the time that you transition from this to this, what are you doing? How are you decreasing from the screen? Because of course, like you said, we're now in these Zoom meetings. We're now having these telephone calls. We're now, like, we looked at our computer more now than we did when we were in the office, I'm sure. And so really taking time, 5 seconds, 5 minutes, to really decrease, take some time to evaluate what's really going on. So time management in this time, in order to have self-care, you literally have to have some time management skills. And so that's like been the biggest thing that I've been telling parents. Let's examine our time management, and let's take, even if it's 5 seconds before the next meeting or 10 seconds before the next meeting, let's figure out a way where you can get away from the computer, stretch, listen to some music, listen to something that kind of upbeats you. As far as those who are dealing with little kids like you, take advantage of those nap times, of those quiet times, or even that movie time. Take advantage of that, allow that, or even when they're eating lunch, allow that to be your time to kind of breathe, take some deep breathing exercises. As a matter of fact, the Cultivation Center, we're doing deep breathing exercises every Saturday morning at 9, showing meditation, how to do deep breathing meditation, and taking time out to incorporate those skills into our everyday practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to begin some of this rearranging. And I love what you said about, and it is true. I think what you said is spot on. It's key. It is managing your time.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the same amount of time. We're all sharing some of the same obstacles. But when you really step back and say, okay, how do I get the most of my time in
Mm-hmm.
this season, in this moment? And it's important for people to make sure they provide that for themselves, because
Mhm.
if I'm not healthy, I can't take care of anyone else, and my household won't be healthy either.
Right.
But I am so thankful that you would take time today to share. This has been so great. And I know
Yeah,
it's going to
thank you for this opportunity.
encourage. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would just say, any last words that you want to give to parents or students who are watching today that you think would just be a good take home for them?
Yes. So my biggest thing is we have always said, I don't have time for it, and you fill in the blank. You now have time for it. Take this moment. Don't procrastinate. Don't be lackadaisical. Go ahead and take time to do what you've been putting off for so long.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.